You guys won't believe it, but we have figured out the best ideal starting lineup for the San Antonio Spurs in 2025. A new big three in the West. This is not my take. It is an article I'm going to read about what they think is the ideal starting lineup for the Spurs. And I'm going to compare it to what I think the Spurs should do. There's a lot of rumors about the Spurs trading for a star like Kevin Durant, Giannis, Jaylen Brown. There's also rumors about trading away the number 2 pick to maybe move down for a star or for more picks down the road. Who knows? So before we get into what this article thinks the Spurs' ideal starting lineup is, let me go in with what my ideal starting lineup would be. I think the Spurs are in a great position. We were blessed by the lottery gods once again, and we have the number 2 pick. We also have the number 14 pick, and then we have like the pick 37 in round 2. We're coming off a year 34 and 48, I believe, in a very competitive West, where before Victor went out, we were competing for the play-in. And I do think we would have made the play-in with De'Aaron Fox because we got him, and I definitely think we would have made the play-in. But obviously Victor goes down, De'Aaron Fox ends up leaving or ending the season short to have surgery on that finger. So I think we were in a decent spot. We definitely improved a lot. And then going into next year, I think it's the same thing. Not only did we get lucky with the lottery, our cap situation is pretty good. Besides this draft, we have future draft capital, which is really good. Probably second to only the Thunder. Maybe to another team like the Rockets or something like that. But we're definitely in a great spot, draft capital-wise. We have Victor Wembanyama returning, who apparently has gotten taller, hopefully has gotten bigger, stronger, and is in his year 3. You would think he would make another leap like he did from year 1 to year 2. I feel like the Spurs are still trying to figure out how to use him correctly because he's such a unicorn where he can shoot volume threes like Curry. Obviously not make at the same rate, but I was saying this to a friend the other day. Victor does need to decide what type of player he's going to be, and the Spurs need to decide how they're going to use him. Is he going to be a volume shooter like Stephen Curry? Which I don't think he'll ever be that good of a shooter, but because he's so tall, and because no one can really contest his shots, and because even if you do put a 7-footer out there on him, he can blow past him. It's actually really almost unstoppable if he shoots 10 threes a game, and it's like you're not going to contest them. So if he can get to like above average level, and he can shoot 10 a night, because no one's going to contest them, like that's dangerous. So does Victor Wembanyama want to be that? Does he want to be Giannis? Does he want to be Kevin Durant? Does he want to be Joel Embiid? I think the best thing for him would be to get better in every aspect of the game that he can, so he has such an all-around game, because he can shoot volume threes we saw last year. Hopefully once he gets stronger, he can have some more post-up moves and strong drives to the rim like Giannis and strong post-up moves like Joel Embiid. And then hopefully, just as he gets older and more mature, like a lot of players do, he can incorporate the mid-range more, because again, no one's really contesting his shots. So we're getting Victor Wembanyama back. De'Aaron Fox will have a full season to work with Wemby and the whole team. That's the biggest addition the Spurs team is getting. We're getting a year 2 Stephon Castle, who was just named Rookie of the Year. We're getting Devin Vassell, Keldon Johnson, Jeremy Sohan, who not only are playing another season together, but are also growing because they're very young too. I think most of them are below 25, the age of 25, except Keldon Johnson. He's maybe 25, 26. Harrison Barnes comes back, who was an elite three-point shooter last year, and just adds that veteran presence that definitely helped last year. So all in all, I think the Spurs are in a great spot. My ideal starting lineup, because I think the Spurs should just stay the route they're going unless a deal comes to them where they can give up basically nothing for a star like they did De'Aaron Fox. Because other than that, we're in a great spot. Just draft Dylan Harper at 2 and then draft a big at 14. So with that, I think the starting lineup would look like De'Aaron Fox, Devin Vassell, Julian Champagnie, Jeremy Sohan, and Victor Wembanyama. And I know Dylan Harper and Stephon Castle are coming off the bench, but it's because you need to space the floor, and ideally in your starting lineup you want to have that. But you cannot put out a lineup of De'Aaron Fox, Stephon Castle, Dylan Harper, Jeremy Sohan, and Victor Wembanyama, where 4 of the 5 guys cannot shoot. So with this lineup, you have Champagnie, who is a pretty good three-point shooter. You have Vassell, who is a really good three-point shooter. De'Aaron Fox, who can hopefully get back to at least like below average. Jeremy Sohan, who has gotten much better, but still is very below average. And then Victor, who is a pretty good three-point shooter too. And then off the bench, you would be having Dylan Harper and Stephon Castle as your like 6th and 7th men. Harrison Barnes, Keldon Johnson, who again averages almost 22 points, 23 points in a season once. And then you would have the big in someone like Thomas Sorber, or even someone like Derek Queen or Kamon Malawatch, hopefully if they drop to 14. So you would have a deep team, and you'd have a much improved roster from last year, mainly the point guard spot with De'Aaron Fox as opposed to Chris Paul last year. And again, Chris Paul did a lot of things for the Spurs last year, leadership-wise, but as a player, he's just not the player he once was. So let's look at Fadeaway World's ideal starting lineup for the Spurs. At point guard, they have De'Aaron Fox. They say the same thing, that obviously a big upgrade from Chris Paul. Fox only averaged 19 points for the Spurs last year, but about 20 points, 19.7. But again, he was getting acclimated to the team. Still, I think that shooting, that pinky needing surgery really affected his dribbling and shooting. So hopefully he can get back to like that all-star form we saw him get to a couple years ago, back with Sacramento. They have at shooting guard Devin Vassell. So same thing so far as me. Even though I know the title already, I know they have Kevin Durant in here somewhere. At small forward, they have Herb Jones. This is interesting. Herb Jones from the New Orleans Pelicans. So with this, they're saying that you'd have to give up Stephon Castle and a second-round pick in 2031 to get him. And that would just make no sense to me. Why would you give up Stephon Castle for Herb Jones? I don't mind the fit that he brings to this team, especially with Kevin Durant and stuff, but that would make no sense. I think the Spurs fans would be really upset if the Spurs traded Stephon Castle for Herb Jones, personally. And then, but Herb Jones is like, no knock on him. Good, decent role player who can play defense and shoot pretty well, like he did for the Pelicans last year. At power forward, they have Kevin Durant. And this is something I've seen. I think if the Spurs do trade for Kevin Durant, they should try to play him at small forward. I think that would be the best thing. So let's say you could get Kevin Durant without giving up Stephon Castle or Dylan Harper, which I do think you can do. Throw in Keldon Johnson, Harrison Barnes, the 14th pick, and maybe a couple other picks. I think that would get it done, especially if KD does signal to teams that he wants to go to San Antonio or wants to go to Houston, because the Suns have no leverage in the sense that he's leaving next year, at the very least. They only have him for one more year. So they want to get something for him. So in that scenario, I think the lineup, why don't you just slide Kevin Durant in at the 3 and then have Jeremy Sohan at the 4? But they have Kevin Durant at the 4 here. And then you also obviously have Victor Wembanyama at the 5. So comparing that to my starting lineup, I think their starting lineup is slightly better because they have Herb Jones instead of Julian Champagnie, which that's, I think, arguable, and maybe I'm a little biased, but I think Julian Champagnie is like the perfect role player because he's not going to take shots away from De'Aaron Fox or take the ball away. He doesn't dribble the ball that much. He's a good, long, lengthy defender, and he knocks down threes. So I like Julian Champagnie a lot. But then Kevin Durant is such a big upgrade. And again, if you can get Kevin Durant without giving up Castle, Harper, even preferably Vassell, Sohan, and the number 2 pick, like, go ahead and do it. But again, that comes with all ramifications. He has a contract which is very sizable, I think like 50-something million next year, and you'd only have him for 1 year guaranteed. Is this team ready to win a championship next year? I don't know. I think the Spurs should stay organic, stay the way, unless, again, they get a deal, an offer for someone like KD or Jaylen Brown or Giannis that they can't refuse. That's my take on it. Let me know down below what you think of this starting lineup. Let me know what you think of my starting lineup. Which one's better? What do you agree with, disagree with from the article or me? Let me know down below.